Okay, doctors, welcome to today's webinar. I'm really happy today to have a special guest, attorney Michael Coates. I met Michael Coates, gosh, we've been on and off a little bit, and then formally did a podcast with him and really started to delve in and dive in, as I had earlier, about his area of expertise. I knew him from California. We do things all across the nation. And I don't know if there's anybody, I put up a slide, I put a picture here because it kind of summates, I was having a hard time when you look at the bio of a guest and a bio as extensive as his is, you go, okay, well, I only want to do like a minute. What am I going to condense this down into? But if you look over here where it says sponsored medical lien recovery successfully represents hundreds of medical providers and thousands of matters, maximizing personal injury lien bill payments, including when patient attorneys seek to slash your bill, take your med pay, won't communicate, won't budge, try to cut your bill, try to just send you a check cash that's half of your bill, all the things that you basically run into. You're great providers. You're motivated by let's get the patient help, and now you're in this medical legal system, but you don't know the ins and outs of that medical legal system. So when you don't know how to do something, you have to find who knows how. When you're stuck on a how, it's always who. You don't look for, well, how do I figure this out myself? I look for who do I know that's already figured this out so I can get the help. There's nobody that's helped providers probably more across the country on helping to protect your bills so that you're getting full payment with those bills than Michael Coates has. He does a lot of, he has PI, personal injury made easy. He has a program for doctors that they're launching to take across the country because they've been so successful with it in California. His whole premise, everything that he does is to help doctors, medical doctors, chiropractors, osteopaths, anybody that's in private practice that's trying to help people. He's helping those providers to actually know the rules and the regulations and how to set the end of the part of your business up that is your collection. How do you deal with an attorney that's trying to cut your bill? How do you deal with an attorney that just wants to give you, is writing you a check and says take it or leave it, or won't communicate with you, or maybe decides that they're just going to distribute it to the patient, and then the patient's not going to, is going to not pay your bill. All of those things that you all run into. We have a guest that specializes in those areas, and Michael, I'm really happy to have you today. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that's very cool is the more I look and the more I delve in, because we help providers to actually obviously get better diagnostics. We help train them to navigate the clinical aspect and setting up documentation for the medical legal aspect. But when you get down to the business aspect of it, and we've all run into, well, how do I hire a lawyer? Well, that's expensive. What lawyer do I find? All of that. So I know we broke it down today to talk to kind of three areas: med pay and the insurances itself, the NSA, which everybody on this call is going to want to know more about NSA, and then your area of lien. So why don't we open it up? First of all, yeah, appreciate having you here, and we can kind of get it started with anything you want to open with, and then let's get into the insurances so we understand. I mean, your explanation, doctors, I did not know the full difference between PIP and MedPay until Michael said one simple thing to me about a week ago, and I'm like, damn, okay, that's the part I didn't understand. So, Michael, glad to have you.
I'm really honored to be with you, Dr. Kronk, and I just love the passion that you have to help chiropractors. Your peers. I mean, you're down there in the field, you're doing it, and it's like what do we call wisdom is we who have lived so long have gotten through all the trenches and the blood on our hands, and it's like we hope to educate the youth so they don't have to go through the same crap that we did. And that's like parents, we get smarter as our kids get older, I think, as they say. So from all the decades that we've done and been in all of this, it's sharing all of that. And why I think a lot of times your why is more important than your what. I mean, I really believe that. And so I think why do I help chiropractors in particular? Because I just believe that you guys are the heroes of personal injury. at first, I mean, in the old days, and my dad, he thought nothing about insurance and he thought nothing about chiropractors. When I got involved with them, I couldn't believe how it helped me physically, mentally, emotionally. And what I especially got around was when I started doing this 10 years ago. And my background I was a trial attorney early on. Then I was in business and having a .com company, but also during the bust. And I love operational efficiencies. And all these things came together in this thing called medical liens. Having a chiropractic buddy, Tim Noble in Anaheim Hills, come to me one day and say, Mike, I got these guys trying to screw me. Can you help me? And I'm looking at this thing. Well, what the hell is this? Because I had dealt on the insurance defense side and medical malpractice defense side in my early years. So this was new to me. But what I found was not only did I get them fully paid on these 5 matters, but I found when each of the attorneys called me up and said, I've been doing this for 25 years and I've never had someone champion a chiropractor. And I thought, is that true? Or are they lying to me? And I found, my God, it's true. And I literally couldn't believe there was no one stepping up for you guys. The reason why I think you're the heroes of personal injury, and I'll be brief because we want to get into some of the content here, but first is you bring patients back to health. That is priceless to me. That is heroic, not in its business, but in life. And even better for you, the chiropractor, you do it without needles, surgery, or popping a pill, right? And we need more of that, not less of that in this country. It's why I also sit on Chiro Congress's this 5-year strategic plan to raise chiropractic up nationally. So I'm with all the influencers for chiropractic, trying to bring together the external and within the profession voices to raise the awareness of what you all do, the respect for what you do within the profession to the influencers and to the public. And I think this is a jamming group. Let me tell you, you've got the top people. I mean, Dr. Kronk, I'm recruiting you to get on there too. I talked to you about this earlier because you'll be awesome for it. But we need voices like Dr. Kronk, you out there too, because it is for all of you. But the second thing and why I think you're a hero is your bills are used to establish the damages of the plaintiff's case, and in fact, are the basis for the pain and suffering. You give the credibility to the patient when they're saying, I hurt. Well, prove it. Here you go. And when you do the documentation right, now you can elevate the amount that patient can get. You're not there to be, to advocate for the patient in their case. You're just there to do it right. You're a neutral party. But when you do it right, you help the patient, you help the attorneys. So that I think is heroic from a business perspective. But there's one other thing. In personal injury, you take it on lien. That means you do the work, and not like most businesses where you do the work, you pay me, you agree to wait to be paid. That can sometimes take years. And you've got overhead and follow-up and things on top of that. So I really think that, especially the chiropractor is the true hero of PI, and you even quarterback a lot of times the healthcare because you're generally the first non-emergency treater that is seen. So I applaud each of you. Why I do it is because I think you deserve to have not only your business goals, but your personal dreams really realized. And I see, I've represented hundreds of clients in all medical specialties, mostly chiropractic, but all of them, in thousands of matters and recovered millions of dollars. And in the process, I've seen how hard you guys work in your community. You're starting so early in the morning, you're going so late at night, you're on your feet all the time, and you're not getting the respect from the MD peers, from the attorneys, the adjusters, and it sucks. It's not right, and it's our job as a community to change that. That's why I'm here to help you help yourself in the process together as a community. We're going to change this broken industry, and it is broken. So let's start first in that. And by the way, I really encourage you all to go to Personal Injury Made Easy or PIMadeEasy.com. Things we will talk about today, there's more education there. You'll see some documents for you like the medical lien agreement. There's even more in depth about MedPay. There's all these PI power hours. Like today, I'm doing an extended one with a healthcare attorney on the No Surprises Act that we're going to talk about a little bit today. It's there to help you. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You got to drink. And because everything is within your power and your control. So Dr. Kronk, so let's start with what have you seen, by the way? So can I start with your own experiences with, well, the difference between MedPay and PEP, because you asked that. MedPay is medical expense coverage. California, that's what we have, for example. It is covering the injuries of you as the driver on your policy and any passenger in your car that gets hurt. And what's sad is to go from 1,000 MedPay coverage to 100,000, 100 times more that I have, it cost me $50 more a year.
Exactly. So doctors, pay attention to what he just said, because every doctor on this call should be looking at their auto policies, because it's ridiculous the auto policy coverage is very cheap. Go ahead, Michael.
And your adjusters don't tell, I mean, your claims person, your broker doesn't tell you this. He doesn't make any money off this. It's so little. And think of all the uninsured drivers and underinsured. If you get yourself, your staff, your patients, and promote this, it may not help the accident that just happened, but I'll tell you, it's going to set the stage for later for that, for your family, your staff, your patient. Now, PIP, personal injury protection, is, Florida, no fault states generally have that and kind of a requirement of an amount. And some states have both MedPay and PIP, but personal injury protection is broader. And it's a lot more expensive because that also includes like childcare, loss of wages. So other things, not just medical expenses. It's still first to the till gets the payment, right? Or at least the entitlement to the payment. And that's one of the things I think when we get into MedPay PIP is realize you've got to ascertain that it's there with your patient and you have control of that, right? So when your patient comes in, one of the documents every one of you should be getting is have them bring in proof of their insurance coverage. There's two things. We're only going to talk about MedPay PIP here, but I'll mention the two things on that coverage. You always want to see what that MedPay PIP coverage is, right? Because the amount matters, including when you're looking at your bill, how it's going to get paid, because that's money that gets paid right away, right? The whole purpose of it as an auto benefit is to issue it promptly so that the medical provider will treat the patient promptly. So it's all about getting them healthier faster. That's why it's there. So when it's delayed or something else, that's defeating the purpose of MedPay and PIP, right? So you want to see what that is. The next thing you want to do is look for the the uninsured motorist and underinsured motorist. And usually it's the underinsured motorist that's the most important. Whatever is your state's minimum, if your patient, and by the way, it's very inexpensive to raise that also. Ask about that too. When you raise the underinsured motorist coverage, that means you're no longer dealing with the minimum coverages that really hamstrings a lot of PI cases. So there's more for more health, more treatment, and the patient to get what they need out of a financial recovery and for the attorney. So the more the insurance coverage, the better it is usually for the PI result. So get that in that patient's first visit. And one other thing, let's say that patient says, the dog ate my paperwork. Okay, I got it, but I can't bring it in. At least in states like California, what do you think, Dr. Cronk, that could be a signal of?
Either they don't have insurance.
Boom. Now, if they don't have insurance, what does that mean legally in the state of California and in other states?
You're the lawyer, I don't know.
What it means is, and this is really important, we have something called Prop 213. Other states have their own version. Not everyone, this is some by state. But what it means is, because the patient did not take advantage of doing their minimum responsibility, what the law says is, well, gosh, you can maybe bring a personal injury action to get your car damage and your medical expenses paid, but you get no pain and suffering damages. None. And that's the goal of PI. Why attorneys take PI cases is not for them to get the medical expenses back or the car damage. They take it for the pain and suffering because that's what elevates the value of the case and all that extra money comes in. So that is kaput when the patient didn't have their own and they were the driver and weren't minimally covered. So you're going to see that and at least know that they did have it by also getting that document. Really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what have you seen now? In the MedPay, well, you're not familiar with PIP. In the PIP has got the same, when we talk about MedPay, I want those that have PIP. You guys I know get the same thing. So we may be talking about MedPay with Dr. Cronk here. I'll mention probably PIP also, but it's the same thing on both sides. So what are the experiences you've seen?
Well, here's a question I have for you, Michael. This is a question that we used to get into. Let's say, let's take a hypothetical. Let's say I'm driving your car. I come to California, I'm driving your car. All right, you're covered, great. I'm covered, great. Now I'm hit in your car by a kid who's driving in the neighbor's car. All right, the neighbor's car's got an insurance policy. The kid has got an insurance policy. You've got an insurance policy, and I've got an insurance policy. So technically, wouldn't there be 4 policies involved potentially?
Well, but for different people. Like the other driver's med pay is not covering you in the other car.
Okay, I gotcha. So there's no.
That covers you and your car and passengers in your car as part of your policy. The other things go from the liability. So, and by the way, when insurers pay out monies, they have what's called subrogation rights. They usually get the ability to seek reimbursement for what they paid to your patient from somebody else. Now, they don't always go after it or they limit the amount, but they've got that right oftentimes. And in MedPay and PIP, you'll see that as well. But so in your thing, yes, it's there, but I think that the availability of it is less the issue than what you see in personal injury is that there was 3 areas. One is the MedPay or PIP is getting sent, even though you sent your bill to the MedPay or PIP insurer.
Yep.
They issue an EOB, explanation of benefits.
Yep.
For the amount. It could be all of your bill, or maybe there's not enough money as part of your bill, and they're doing more of trying to write down things, and there's ways to attack that too, by the way. But the problem is, even though you've even sent them an assignment of benefits, where do they send the check?
Right.
Dr. Kronk, where are they sending it?
Well, if you don't have an assignment of benefits?
Even with it, where are the insurers sending it? Almost regardless of that, they're still sending it oftentimes to the patient's attorney.
Right.
Like, why is that? Let me tell you why. Because in the area of PI, the patient is the star player. Everybody's focused around that. The attorney is the financial agent for the player, making them money, but the patient can sue them for legal malpractice. You, the doctor, are there to keep them on the field, right? You're the medical trainer, but if you screw up, that patient can sue you for medical malpractice. Well, the insurer for MedPay and PIP, is the bank, okay? And the patient, because it's their own policy, can sue them for what's called bad faith. Boy, insurers hate hearing that. Bad faith is what opens up for punitive damages based upon how much the company's worth. So they don't like that. Patients have great leverage in this area. It's why also we're accelerating something, but I would say when you're not getting paid your full bill and they're writing you down, your patient's your best friend here. If you get the patient to write that insurer a letter or a fax or an email saying, I want my provider paid in full right now, no write downs, or you are subject to a bad faith complaint by me. Let me tell you, most of those insurers are going to right away pay them in full, pay your bill, and do it right now. Because they don't want to have that sets the stage for a bad faith complaint. They're your real friends. So that relationship with the patient really matters in this area. So when the attorney gets that and they're sending it to him, it's because the insurer's afraid the patient's going to get mad that they sent it to you, because the patient might want to be greedy or whatever. And the attorney, of course, a lot of these guys, this gets into one of the other problems. When they get it, what do they do with it?
They hold it.
First thing to do, they wait till the end of the case. Years. What's the purpose of MedPay we just talked about? Prompt payment. So they're not supposed to hold it. It's supposed to be issued. And they say, well, it's going to be reimbursable, so we got to hold it. No, I educate attorneys and law firms on this all the time. They're screwing up so bad in this area. If I lent you money and I lent you $10,000 and I put it on the table in front of you, and a year later, that money is sitting right on that table, do I want every dollar back? Absolutely, and right now it's sitting there. It's never been used. So in MedPay or PIP, when the money, it's not been dispersed to the provider who it's supposed to go to, it's sitting right on the table. Of course they want that money back by the right of reimbursement. But when they paid it to you, it's not with the patient or the attorney. Most insurers will waive the entire right of reimbursement, really helping the patient. Or they'll take pennies on the dollar, really helping the patient. So it's really important to educate the attorneys to pay that over. And look what it also did. When they paid the bill, and in full, if they could, or whatever it is, or at least your fees for your codes, that full amount, that establishes the damages for the PI case that the attorney can use with the adjuster. They can't say anymore, your bill and fees aren't what it's worth. It just got paid. It just established my fees are reasonable. It just got paid. Boom. Okay. So it's really important they don't hold on to it. But here's the worst thing. And to me, they are stealing from your patient when they take attorney's fees out of MedPay or PIP that was issued on your bill. I want to repeat that. I think they are literally stealing when the attorney takes attorney's fees. This wasn't done. This isn't the third-party liability case. You did the work. You submit your bill. Check's been issued. They simply got it. Because, Dr. Cronk, if the attorney takes out $2,000 from your bill that was paid on MedPay and doesn't give it to you and use it for attorney's fees, who has to make up that difference to you?
Say that again. Who has to make what?
If the attorney takes $2,000 for attorney's fees from MedPay issued on your bill, so that means it's less than, you didn't get that $2,000.
I got a $10,000 bill. Basically, he's taken $2,000 of that bill
for attorney's fees.
He's giving me $8,000 because he's taken 30. In that case, it would be $3,300 from that bill, and he's paying me 70. What is that? He's paying me $6,700.
So who has to make up that difference now?
Well, technically, the patient would have to make it.
No, not technically. That is the legal fact. The patient owes the bill regardless of the outcome of the case. Now, yes, you can waive it. That's all to you. It's like I could have somebody doing the roof of my house, and here's how much. And if he wants to give me a break at what we've contractually agreed to, great. But I still owe him for the roof of the house. That's only if he wants to, right? And most likely he doesn't. So here, the patient's supposed to have gotten a dollar for dollar benefit out of the MedPay or PIP. Well, look what just happened. They didn't. Again, defeating the purpose. Now, the thing that I have seen over the past couple of years, more law firms have now inserted in their retainer agreement with the patient their right to get attorney's fees from the MedPay. They specifically put that in there now. That's why in the lien agreement, we get to later, like I revise every year, I put a specific rescission of that MedPay entitlement to the attorney when it's issued on your bill in that contract, which both of them sign at the beginning. And a lot of times the attorneys don't even read it, they sign it because you need that. It's just better. This is the best area where when you stand up for yourself, you're standing up for your patient. This is for your patient's better outcome also. So I really implore that here with you in this one area that you do to stop the abuse. Don't let them mislead you. Don't let them put fear within you. You know, there's three things I really teach that applies upon everything, and it's proper, preparedness, it's radical transparency, and it's standing up for what's right. And it's last thing is standing up for what's right. You need to do that. If you don't, the patient doesn't know any better. They're just believing whatever their attorney says.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. So, because this will be essentially what you're doing is you're putting ethics in the law firm. You're putting ethics in on the attorney. You're basically saying, okay, technically this is the contract. This wouldn't be part of that. So when you're helping doctors, I can only imagine that you run into a little bit of bumpiness with the attorneys because you're basically keeping them in line where it was kind of maybe taking candy from a kid earlier, correct?
Well, yes, and that, a lot of them, they were taught wrong. Some of them really believe what they're saying, and they're simply wrong because whether it was some bad webinar, not a good practitioner that they worked for as an associate attorney and they kept that practice, a lot of times they just don't look into it. They just assume it's correct without even looking at it. Like you'll oftentimes get in California, for example, an assertion of a civil code provision. It's called 3040 that they try to say justifies the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and it doesn't. So here's the thing, all of you out there. When attorneys or law firms make legal assertions, you should approach it like Ronald Reagan and the Russians. Trust but verify. Because there's a lot of really good attorneys that are really good and open about things, but you don't know. So what you need to do is to find out if it's the truth or not. I'm probably the primary source of finding that out right now in the country, but go to especially your, any healthcare attorney that's licensed in your state to see what help you can get. Unfortunately, I find a lot of them, they just don't know about the lien area, and it's unfortunate. This is such a little niche area, but it's important you understand you're oftentimes being misled, not always intentionally. Okay.
Right. Okay. So and we're going to get down to, I'll get down to the end of, obviously you can't know everything there is to know about these subjects in
Well,
30.
speaking of that, I mean, I think we talked about that. We can only cover so much like in a webinar in a here. I've got 1 hour, but I got a 3-day event I'm doing May 5th, 6th, and 7th, and I'm actually going to do a much deeper dive in some of the MedPay area and some other things we're talking about. So guys, in the end, this is all the great things that Dr. Cronk does to you, myself and other people and guests that come on. It's your path of your road to mastery, right? Yeah, you find something that seems to apply, get more into it, learn more about it, take the time, do more of what he teaches and his program and his processes because they're really good. You're going to be better at PI if you follow what Dr. Cronk says, right? You can't not be better if you do it. But that's up to you, right? Back to the leading the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So I encourage you to follow what Dr. Cronk says on things. You're going to just be better.
Let's do this, Michael, because I know there's interest. Let's go into just NSA is obviously going to be interesting because of what it's going to do. And doctors, we're going to touch at the end of this webinar. I will give you a link. I will show you exactly how to go. Michael's going to have a more in-depth program on this today. I'll also show you, go out to his website, sign up with what he has, drop his lien. I mean, he's got so much free information right now, and you want to take advantage of it. So we'll get into that. But let's kind of transition into this No Surprises Act. Don't surprise us.
Oh my God, let me tell you, everybody, how many of you have even heard of the No Surprises Act? I mean, I haven't found a single provider yet that I've mentioned this to that has said, oh yeah, I know what that is. What? And I can tell you right now, as of today, as we're on this webinar, you are in violation and you are subject to up to $10,000 in fines per violation. Up to $10,000. That is for every patient that has walked in your door as of January 2nd this year because you've not been complying. And I know that people think even in personal injury, it doesn't apply to PI. You're wrong. So the No Surprises Act is what it says. It's for no surprise billings. What everybody thought this was about is how it really originated. And it originated because of, we've all heard about, you go into the hospital, it's part of your insurance network, you think I'm all covered by my insurance, and suddenly you leave and you've got this $10,000, $50,000, $300,000 medical bill because they flew in some out-of-network practitioner that you didn't know was out-of-network, anesthesiologist, radiologist, surgeon, and the out-of-network fees applied. So they decided to put a stop to that. That was the October of 2021 insertion called Part 1 of the NSA. Well, in October, they decided to do more. And they decided to expand the NSA to every single licensed or certified medical practitioner in the country it applies to when you've got an uninsured or self-pay patient. A self-pay, someone who's opted not to use their insurance coverage, for example. And what is PI? Oftentimes, opting not to use insurance coverage and going on lien, right? So, I mean, certainly we don't have time to go through all the stuff of the NSA. First thing is just make it important. You've got to understand this is where you've got to change policies, procedures, paperwork, the process your front desk is doing it and what you do it. Sure.
So just so you, doctors, when you're listening to this, it's like anything else. First, it's new, so it'll be complex. It'll sound more complex than what it is. So what you have to do is you have to get somebody that works, that's their job, is to work on, okay, let's get through all this complexity and then let's make it simple what you have to do. So, in this process, again, exactly what Michael said, you have to first know about it. It's going to bring ethics into the market, and it's going to bring ethics into the market that's actually needed. You have to be open and transparent with what your bill is going to be, and you're going to have to give an estimate, correct, Michael?
Yes, yeah. first of all, one thing you just said is, that is the problem with new law. And you know, when you get new law, you're going to get lobbyists and politicians are going to be poking at it, right? Groups coming in to make changes to law. They even called it's an interim final ruling. If that isn't a red flag for I'm going to be making changes, nothing is, right? So part of it will be watching how they're enforcing it, the suits being brought. But I pose this to all of us in personal injury. We have some great trusted attorneys we deal with. No problem with those guys. But we also deal with the other side of the coin too, and far too often. If you don't think at the conclusion of a case, when you want to get paid your full bill, you're not going to have attorneys saying, hey, what? Patient treated in 2022? You didn't give a good faith estimate. You're subject to fines. I want you to waive your entire bill. They're going to be using that against you. Trust me, it's coming. So you need to prepare yourself and stop that by being prepared and putting in the right things. So part of the biggest thing that's being required is what's called a good faith estimate, right? Because we give an estimate, that means we know, okay, when you go to buy a car, you don't drive the car home and then call the dealership and say, how much did I pay for what I just bought? You know before you go off the lot or you don't buy it because it was too expensive, right? The problem in PI that many of you have done, I'm going to say most of you do, and this is part of the problem. One of the things I've tried to correct for years is I'm a believer in interim billings. As you're treating, every month you're sending a bill so that people see how much you're charging along the way of their right to the object, and I even want you to put your fee schedules at the first visit. That's generally not happening. Well, now it's gonna, because when you give a good faith estimate, it means you're not going to be surprised. So you literally have to project with that patient how many visits, what kind of modalities, how much per visit, what is that total bill for those 28 or whatever treatments. Here's the total amount we're estimating in good faith. If you're off by $400 being too high, you're subject to the fines. We'll get to that a little bit later, but I'm just saying, and I know it's hard for you guys. How can you be like that? Well, the way you address that is, as you're going along treatment, you then revise that good faith estimate. And each time, what I recommend you doing is, you need to, by the way, give it both orally and in writing. Both ways, not one, both, and in their native language. Okay? So when you get it, you should have them sign it, do a new one, because as long as you're keeping them updated, I think that you're staying in track with this. And I think it's actually going to help. The more I thought about this in PI, we worry about what an attorney is going to think. Oh my God, here's the size of my potential bill. But now they're going to realize you have to do this. So when you give them notice of here's what my treatment is in advance, so they're going to see. And on my lien, I'm changing my lien to address this as well, by the way. It's going to be much harder for them to object later saying, well, your fees weren't reasonable. I gave you the estimate. You could have objected, had them go someplace else. The patient and you chose to do it here. So the other thing to realize as you get into this is there are timing issues. Like if the patient makes that appointment over 10 days in advance, do you think, Dr. Cronk, do you think, okay, when the patient comes in, I can then give them the estimate? You think that's how it works?
Okay, so basically, if like they wouldn't come in 10 days, so they miss 10 days or on, what do you say?
By the way, you're right in chiropractic, you shouldn't be waiting 10 days to come in. So maybe that's a bad example, but just so you know, if a patient reserves an appointment over 10 days, you have to give them an initial good faith estimate 3 days before they even appear for your visit. If they make it over 3 days before the visit, you need to give it within 1 day of the visit. For the walk-ins, you have until 3 days after the visit to give it to them. Okay, so realize there are timing issues. In fact, I'm doing this with, like I said, in a few hours with a healthcare attorney, and we're going to really dive deep into just the NSA through the PI Made Easy, because there's a lot of little nuances and landmines in here you got to be careful of. But realize there's the good faith estimate, there's timing. You need to have this also posted about the fact that they are entitled to a good faith estimate in 2 places in your practice that they can see.
So doctors, here's what I'm gonna tell you. If I'm in private practice today, I am absolutely gonna love this NSA because I'm already transparent. Now I'm gonna love it because I know a lot of places aren't transparent. And if people knew sort of what was going on behind this, so a lot of you doctors will complain about this place or that place, or wow, they charge this much or that much, and patients complain about it and everything else. Okay, it'll sound a little bit complex, but there's a barrier to entry to every business, every game. And so I'm going to love it because it's going to wipe out those that don't want to play in this game.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it more easier for me to come in and clean up. Now, what I'm going to recommend, and we're going to transition into the lean because I want to leave us just a little bit of time. I got a hard stop at the end of the hour. What it's going to do is, yes, you're going to, I'll show you that today, you're going to want to get on the Power Hour. You're going to want to sign up with Michael's site. So if you can't watch it this afternoon because of scheduling, you can watch it later, right? But this is information that's coming down that makes it easier for operators that are good operators to operate. It'll sound a little complex at first, but it's the way it should be anyway.
Yeah,
So
but I'm so happy that they put this in. I don't know how it'll revise, but I also did an article for Chiropractic Economics that will be published. I think it's the March issue. They'll be publishing it on the NSA, trying to help you guys. So I'm putting a detailed article about things and what to do in chiropractor economics as well. And after my PI Power Hour, I'll have a handout from that as well to put in place to help you. So like Dr. Cronk is saying, listen, this is a good thing. This is not a bad thing. And I think for PI, for the guys that do it right, it's going to be a great thing, not just a good thing. This is awesome for us. Awesome. And the bad attorneys are going to hate this, but it's going to be awesome for it, okay?
Correct. That's the way we look at it. So let's transition. You know, obviously we got the insurance, we've got the NSA, and we've got, okay, I need my money protected. I need to collect my money. I need my legal documents in place. And one of the legal documents is the lien. I know everyone on this call, everyone on this program has probably uses a lien, but they got a lien from their buddy, or they got a lien from some, you know, they talked to somebody who talked to somebody. And so I know when I was in private practice, until I actually had an attorney work this stuff up for me, I didn't know if it was right or not, but I didn't even know I needed to know if it was right or not until they didn't work. Do you know what I mean?
So, and the problem is most of those attorneys didn't know what to put in it. And so all of them, in fact, I'm going to say this, every single one is deficient. Everyone, no matter what you're using, unless it's my lane, is bad. And I say it only because the one that I developed, I did it first in 2000. I got tired of modifying every client's lien that I got because they were so bad. And I'm a contractual attorney. It's what I really loved. So I kept revising. I said, this sucks. I can't keep revising everyone. Okay, I'm just going to make a new form. So back in 2012, I created. In 2013, I actually published about the lien in chiropractic economics back then. And it's been used around the country, but not used nearly enough. And think of it this way, Dr. Cronk, you know, like, do you on the practice, do you lease your space, or do you own the building?
No, we rent the space.
Okay, you signed a lease agreement, didn't you?
Absolutely.
How many pages is that, by the way?
Don't remember. 20? The one we have 3 of them, 4 of them, four spaces.
They might be 20 pages, little tiny writing, like, oh my God.
They're long.
It's horrible. Okay, but the purpose of a contract is to lay out the duties and obligations and the rights of the different parties, right? Make no mistake about it. That medical lien agreement is supposed to be a contract. When you are relying upon letters of protection, the attorney sends you a paragraph, I promise to pay to respect your lien. You're getting basically nothing. Now, some states, there's a little more oomph to it, but in the end, why not protect yourself the best in every business? The foundation of all businesses in this country is the contract. It's the terms of the agreement. So when you start off with the right agreement, the right form, you set yourself up for success. You give clarity to everybody involved, right? There's a path shown. And then when it's time to enforce, if things went south, you've got the best hammer of all, where you don't need an attorney. because it's all freaking there. But when you don't protect yourself, when you're not having things about MedPay and PIP, when you're not having, say, an insurance provision is your only protection against time, doesn't mean you make them pay insurance. But if a guy's screwing you and he's waited like 4 years, I'd assert and make them pay interest too, right? So it's really important to have the right document. Now, the issue is all the things that you are missing in it. So like I see agreements that have like, and I'll give you an example of how some are just faulty. An important provision is an attorney fee provision, right? Because if you've got to enforce this, if you got to spend more money with somebody, you want the right to get your attorney's fees back, especially when your bill's not large. But the purpose of an attorney fee provision is not to hire an attorney. Remember, we talked about the star player and what people are fearful of. Attorneys are fearful of malpractice. Well, if there's an attorney fee provision that applies to the patient and the attorney's actions trigger that, now the patient has to pay more because of the attorney, and the patient learns who's caused that problem. What do you think the hammer that they have? Malpractice against their own attorney. So the leverage in that is when that provision, the problem I see is a lot of liens have that provision below the patient's signature in where the attorney signs only. Well, things below your signature, you're not deemed to know that it's even there. You stop reading. So that's one error. And I could list a whole bunch, but I just want you all to really understand and comprehend the key importance of the right lien agreement. And I would say this, we've got if you register at the portal, you can, I would say, just download the lien agreement there and literally read it paragraph by paragraph. There's a one pager for those that have to have one page. It's not as good as I've now made it a 3-page. Well, actually, it's a 2-pager on there now. So you all know, disclosure. I've changed it again. With this No Surprise Act and some other tricks I found over the past year, I now modified it yet again. That's not getting issued till probably sometime later this month or next month when we've shifted to a paid portal. But if you get the one even there now, it's far better than what you're using. Because I want to also address the No Surprises Act and have a waiver of the application of the No Surprises Act. Oh, by the way, one last thing, No Surprises Act, I'm sorry, I'm shifting a bit.
No, that's fine.
But for PI, for them to enforce the penalty, there's 2 things that they must have for a patient or someone. It must be an over $400 error, but also within 120 days, I think it's of the last bill you've given them. Could be viewed the last treatment. I think it's going to be the last bill you sent. Okay, now that's 6 months. Most PI cases don't resolve in that time. Some do, good attorneys, but you probably won't have any problem with those attorneys who resolve something in 6 months. It's the ones that take longer that the problems occur. So the issue you're going to get into with that is where a patient comes in for flare-ups or another accident or something else where somebody's going to try to tie in one of those visits with that prior accident to now re-trigger the start of the 120 days. So be careful of that. But it's also why in the lien agreement, that's again your protection. You can lay out, they're waiving this, they've chosen. Here's even what I'm believing is a good faith estimate nonetheless. But you're waiving your rights here because you're choosing, which you should be choosing in PI, not to use your insurance. Who wants to use insurance when you got to pay copays and deductibles that skyrocket now? I mean, I think my copay is like, I got emergency care, I think it's like $7,000 to $8,000 before, they're actually paying. So no, I don't want to use my deductible. So, back on the lien, even having their duty to give you status updates in detail, that when the case resolves, it should be in there. They're going to give you the amount of the settlement, the amount of the different liens. So the patient now is basically given their consent for you to get all this information too. That's why the more laying out in that lien, and you can even use that to go over with the patient, it's really good, I think. And I think you'll see that when you go through it, how that can even drive a first meeting with the patient, which I think aren't long enough in PI. It really sets the core. And I know you're really big on that, Dr. Kronk, with that first patient meeting. It's so important in PI especially.
Absolutely. So, doctors, what this is going to boil down to is, for good operators, this is going to be really good. It just is going to be, but you're going to need more information. So I have up Michael's site right now. You would go to PImadeeasy.com. Now I'm gonna recommend everyone that's on this, you hit right here, you hit membership, and then you go and you get access now, and you sign up as a member. Now, when you sign up as a member, you're going to see there's all kinds of free tools, one of which is the lean. The lean that Michael was talking about, it's very easy to drop down and drop into that lean. So you want to go to PI Made Easy, get in here. It's free. There's no charge, and there's no like credit card, or you're not putting your credit card on file.
For now.
For now. No, I understand. The reason why I'm saying it, and rightfully so, is this will be a paid portal. So right now you have access to some free tools that he gives openly, right? He's like any other group. So you want to go in. This is how you also get on the No Surprises Act later today. This is how you would also get, if you can't make it today, possibly into the replay to see a replay, so that you can start to get more information about these things. As a business owner, this is going to be very good for good business operators. And like I said, we've always been good business operators, so I like it because it's going to put a little bit of a barrier to entrance into it, because people just don't know about it. And what it's going to do is the bad operators are going to have a more difficult time. What's a bad operator? Bad operators, I don't want patients to ever see my bill. You know why? Because I even think I way overcharge. And so I just wanted to go to the attorney because the attorney deals with it and the patient never sees it. Those providers are going to have trouble. That's not the future of the market. The future of the market is transparency. If you charge $15,000 for a case, and that's with your rehab and everything else, and that's normal for you, you just have to be transparent with it. If it's 6, if it's 3, if it's 10, whatever it is. So it's going to be a very good thing for the market. It's going to be good for consumers. It's going to be good for good doctors. It's going to be good for good attorneys. But you need to find out more about it. And there's no question about it. So definitely, no matter what you do after this program, go get, I signed, as soon as I saw it was free, I went out, signed up on it. I looked in there, I was like, oh my God, look at this lean compared to what we were doing when, okay, we need to make some changes. Right? So he's just got so much great information in here. You're going to want to.
Let me mention, I mean, you got things. I do these monthly PI Power Hours. It used to be called Wine with Mike's, but people thought I was having a wine class, so change the name. But excuse me. You have things on like staff embezzlement. 80% of medical practices have staff embezzling at your practice. In PI, it's even higher. So you'll have an expert that I talk about that and some things you can do to stop that, and a lot of different reasonable fees, lots of different subjects. So it's there with experts to help you do business better, not just in personal injury, to do business better. Both Dr. Cronk and I want you successful. That's also why, I mean, I personally, my company champions providers only in California. And because of that limitation, I needed to fix this industry. I had to fix it nationwide. I had to do something different. That's why I created the portal. But the portal is really a support mechanism for what the real goal is. And that's going to be the coaching, training, and mentoring program, the group coaching, training, and mentoring that we're launching later this year. We're having a 3-day preview event called Property and Personal Injury Live. That's May 5th, 6th, and 7th. Dr. Cronk's going to be, in fact, one of the guest speakers as we get into some of the medical nuances that are really important. But you talk about value. You talk about getting awareness of where your practice is at in PI and where it can go and how to get there, the path and the road to mastery to make that work. You're going to come out of that 3-day event as the business owner on frickin' fire. Let me tell you, you're going to see, that day, I promise you this, you leave that 3-day, that next day, you are making more money in your practice. You are relieving more stress from your staff. You are now farther to get what you want, and you will have no idea that this all existed because there hasn't been anybody focusing on, they focus on other aspects of PI, but not about out negotiating attorneys, but also just about how do we put this all together. And I've got this, it's called a personal injury power system that I want you to learn. And just as a quick little preview, it's about processes times payments times profits. And that's how you have a power practice. So that's what you're gonna learn about on those 3 days. They're long days, but oh my God, is it good. So I hope to see you there. Dr. Cronk will be there as one of the guest lectures. So really don't just look at the portal. When we get you, and Dr. Cronk will get it around, register for that event. We'll have you in a VIP membership to get extras, because it's really low cost, even with the VIP, because I just want you to be there.
Michael, how today, other than going in and signing up on your website, there's going to be a lot of doctors that have never, this is the first time they've engaged with you. So how would they just go out? I just had the website up. Would they just go out to the website and sign up, and that's how the best way to engage with you? If anybody wanted to talk to you or call you, they just call this 310 number, 310-651-6391?
Yeah, that's the business number. So I would get to your members and stuff. You can use it. Here's my direct cell, 714-470-2927. That directly reaches me. Okay. Don't pass that around, everybody. Okay. But the best thing is by email. So
change phone Monday.
So best is by email, mcoates, MCOATES @pimadeeasy.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me, by email, because we're all really busy. But if you've got something you need me to look at or review or some feedback, I'm happy to do that. And in fact, I think those that actually sign up for the 3-day event, and if they go to the VIP, which will only be like a couple $100, I'm going to do at least a 15-minute phone call before that event happens to really find out about your problems and even do some help right there before it even occurs. So that would be probably one of the best ways when you do register for that event and do a VIP and then get access. I can actually have a personal discussion with you beforehand.
Michael, if they go out, I'm just on your site right now, and they go to contact us, and they were to put their name and their number and their email in and give a message, does that go? That's also a way that they could contact you, correct?
Yeah, but that's not as good. I would register for the portal, and by the way, there's a 2-process verification. So do the first one and then do the second one, because that way you can access all the PI Power Hours, everything that's there right now, and it's really blowing up to a far more expanded thing later this month.
Yeah.
In fact, it might be for Parker. I'm going to be at Parker next week, and we're trying to have it where we've converted by then. So I would encourage you this week or the beginning of next week to go and do it if you really need just free. Okay.
Yeah. So doctors, what I'm showing you right now, you just go to membership, you just go right in, just like I did. You just go into it, and you're going to have a pop-up. Of course, now that I've just backed out of it, I can't get back into it. All right, let me switch.
And that way you also get all the things about when the 3-day window as it's coming up, and you'll get informed on things. When new things break, I send out different things on alerts and stuff. So this is all to really keep in tune in this area of liens.
Michael, perfect. I so much appreciate you coming on. I mean, we bring in thought leaders and content areas, experts that are experts in a specific area. You have a specific niche area of knowledge that's so beneficial. And the more I get to know you, the more I'm like, okay, your purpose, what I like is your purpose driven behind it. Look, everybody should make money. There's no question about it. You got to have your clinics in good shape. You got to have your personal finances in good shape. You have to have little or no or getting the stress of money off of you long term by good business practice, good investing practice, good things like that. But it's just amazing when you get somebody who, this is the direction, they went from defense to contract law to, all these various areas leading them into now having some chiropractor say, hey, damn, I can't get paid. Look at this thing. And then directing it into, well, I'm going to go into this whole other area. So Michael, I so appreciate your time today. So much.
And think of this, when you reduce constantly on your bills, you devalue yourself. Why are you doing that? 100%. What you're going to get is you become the fodder of the bad attorney. The good ones want you to be paid in full, because that means when you go to deposition or trial, you can support your bill as what it's worth. So you got to do the things so that even the bad guys got to show you the respect that you and your staff deserve. And I'm going to make sure and do all I can to make sure you get that for yourself, where you can do it yourself. So that's why I love Dr. Cronk. He's all about the same thing. We're in such alignment to just see you have a better life. You guys work so hard, and we want to see where your life is just easier. And over time, I really hope it becomes easy in PI. And PI can literally launch all segments of your practice when you do it right. So thank you, Dr. Cronk. I love you. I appreciate you. I look forward to just spending so much more time with you. And And we've already become friends, but I already know we're going to be lifelong friends. And I want to see you with the Chiro Congress, the larger endeavor for chiropractic. You're going to be so helpful. I'm so appreciative you want to volunteer your time in that incredible cause. And all of you chiropractors out there, find out more about the 5-year strategic initiative, whether you're donating money, time, just saying you support it. The profession needs you now on a national basis to band together. And we can fix not just PI, I'm talking about just the entire chiropractic industry where you deserve to be. Thank you, Dr. Pronk. Appreciate it.
Michael, you and I will talk probably tomorrow. Have a great program today. Doctors, if you can be on that program today, be on it. And again, Michael, I thank you so much for your time today.
Blessings to you, my friend.
All right. Doctors, thank you very much for your time and your attention. Look for, we do a webinar. We bring some expert in pretty much every month now. Appreciate your time. Have a great rest of the week. Have a great month. And again, thank you for your time. Take care.